I was asked just to say a couple of words, first of all, just to explain how a Sign Hill girl has become the Chief Customer Officer of BT Group. So just quickly, some of it Owen kindly touched on. I did German and politics in UCD, and I then probably followed a similar path to many of you. I waitressed, chambermaided, and taught my way around the world in what's now called a gap year, but in old money it was dropping out of existence, according to my parents. And it was in the years when there was no mobile phone, no email, no internet, and I had a ball. I had an absolute ball. I picked up loads of life skills and survival skills, really, but more importantly, I picked up a lot of first-hand customer experience because I had to serve people, and I worked with some great brands like the Ritz in San Francisco and call centres in Australia. I came back, I joined Accenture, and it was around the time that the call centre boom was happening in Ireland, just in the late 90s. Some of you are nodding. Compaq were building their European call centre here in Dublin, and I got some amazing experience, really, because I had worked in call centres. I knew what call centres did, and that was a good start. And that's been my specialism then throughout my career. So I joined BT about 8 years ago, and actually they're a great company. I'll speak about them in a second, but I've had a range of roles. I've run call centres, I have run operations, I've run exchanges. I've also done some kind of more traditional consulting roles as well within BT. And then very recently, we realised we needed a Chief Customer Officer, and I took the post in July. So I'm also on the board of Southern Water, and I do a lot on mental health in England as well. I have a big interest in mental health. And I used to be on the board of the company that runs Broadmoor, so it's kind of a hobby of mine. And I have 2 boys who keep me on my toes. Just a bit about BT. I mean, most people in the UK really feel they know BT. It's about 90,000 people, and we're in 170 countries worldwide. What you would know here, probably more from air, is really what we are in the UK. So we run all the exchanges, all the infrastructure. We have vast call centres. We provide solutions and services to big businesses, but also to the man and woman in the street as well. So it's a very big, complex organisation. It's the oldest telco in the world. And it's been going since the invention of kind of the telegraph way back in kind of 18, whatever it would be. And BT, they actually laid the first transatlantic cable. They also broadcast the first live satellite pictures ever in the world. And my own personal favourite, the person who invented the first programmable computer was actually a BT employee as well, and what he built is now in the London Science Museum. So it's a brilliant company, and it really kind of helped me from a growth perspective, because they're very, very innovative, and that's great. But, and I'll come to the but in a second, so I thought I'd quickly flash up, and you probably can't see it, but you can see the rough trend. The red line is BT, the blue line is Apple, and that's our share price performance in the last 5 years. So what we've actually managed to do, and I will come to the but, is we've really bucked the trend in terms of incumbent, old, European telcos, and actually succeeding and reinventing ourselves. And you've all probably, BT Sport through Setanta. We've done extremely well investing for the future. We've done extremely well in managing our bottom line. But what we're not doing is growing. And I guess very much linking to Ian's point of earlier, and I'll come to the customer experience bit now, we are not growing because, if I'm honest, our customers, and I think this is much truer in the residential side of our business, but our customers don't love us. They don't love us, they kind of tolerate us, and in general all telcos are bad and all telcos are evil. And if you look at something like the Nunwood survey, which surveys all customer experience across lots of industries, pretty much always the bottom of the heap are utilities companies and telcos. And this year was no exception. So it's not a great kind of position to come from. So very much, again, building on what Ian said earlier, what we've realised, and this is a bit of a comparison picture which you might not be able to read, but again, using the theme of Apple, and if anybody's from Apple, you should take this as a compliment, buying decisions are absolutely not rational. And if you compare, on the left, this is the iPhone 6, on the right, it's Samsung, it's a little bit out of date, I suspect. But if you compare any rational comparisons, like the RAM or the Pixels or whatever it might be, there's no rhyme or reason to why Apple can charge such an amazing premium for the products that they have. And the reality is, and the reason they can, is because of that amazing loyalty and love that people have for a brand like Apple. I don't know how many of you are Apple users. Apples? Yeah, there you go. Would you queue up in the rain for an Apple? No? Okay. People do that, right? And I have to say, I'm always just completely blown away by, imagine working for a company where people would queue up in the rain for my products. How bloody amazing would that be, right? Whether you're a salesperson, whether you're, whatever it might be. And I think this is what BT is very much trying to do in the mass of our people are in the UK, but it's to try to inspire them to say, this is about growth, and I very much agree with Ian. It's nothing to do with being nice and fluffy. It's great as a byproduct that our customers would be happy, but actually it's about them wanting to be loyal and endure with us and spend with us over a long period of time. And that's really what my job is all about. And to some extent, I actually say to my boss, it's an admission of failure that he's had to appoint me, because actually if our organisation did this naturally, I would be out of a job. And the day I'm out of a job and I can go back to running an operation, I will punch the sky with joy, because I miss all the call centre updates and whatever. But that is the reality of BT at the moment. So we're all about trying to get our customers to absolutely love us. And we've come up with actually, we call this the Wheel of Love, which is going down a treat in BT, because actually remembering the Wheel of Love. But I have a couple of my counterparts, the HR group director, the chief brand officer, and it's very much trying to highlight, this is not new news probably to any of you in the room, but we have been quite fixated on service in the past. And actually service is only one part of what we're trying to build from an experience perspective. So everything we do, every decision we make, every communication we give out to customers, how we package our goods. I had a really simple example recently where when we recover a hub or a router that we've given customers, or some piece of kit, how they maybe use the TV box, we pretty much send them a black sack and ask them to send us back the products. Now, how does that make them feel about the product that we're telling them we really value and we want them to value? It doesn't make them feel great. And as a comparison in the UK, one of our biggest competitors, Virgin, they send a beautiful self-sealing box, very much sending a different message, which is, we have a bloody amazing product and we want it back, please. So really, really interesting. I've spent a lot of time across our whole business with the supply chain guys, with, everybody has a role to play. And yes, it is service, but it's also about everybody, playing their part. So this is how I feel at the moment. I am one of those ships in a glacial kind of whatever bind, but we're very, very, very serious about this as a topic. And my boss, even just this week setting out his message for 2016, very much led the entire message about needing to just kill customer service and absolutely nail it this year. And he did that totally unprompted. So I think the first thing we have is leadership, which is great. And I think that's a very, very good start. But we need much more people actively making decisions that are customer decisions. And I guess, again, relating it to Ian's pitch, and we didn't talk beforehand, but it's interesting how many parallels there are. I really don't see this as transformation. In fact, I hate the word transformation, because this won't happen quickly. And that's bad for me, because I'm a very impatient person. But actually, it won't happen quickly. This is going to be an evolution over a very, very long period of time, I think. The great thing is, in many countries, we're already great at this. Like in Ireland, we have a pretty good reputation for experience, but it's not what we're naturally good at in the critical mass of our business. So there's a couple of areas we're going to prioritise, and again, they'll probably link to Ian's view. The first is actually on people. And believe it or not, within BT, as I said, it's roughly 90,000 people. And actually about 40% of our people are over the age of 50. Okay? I'll let that sink in for a second. So 40% of our workforce are over the age of 50. And now that's in the UK. If I go globally, it's about 30% are over the age of 50. So we're not a startup, okay? We're not just saying let's hire different people. We're highly, highly, highly unionised as well. So we've got a lot of negotiation if we want to change things. We've got to sit down with quite a tough union in the UK, the CWU. If we want to change working hours, we want to ask our engineers to do different, jobs, whatever it might be. But we've realised we've got a lot of people who've been in our business for a long time. We've also got a very young workforce as well. We hire hundreds and hundreds of apprentices and graduates every year. And I guess the reason for this picture, I personally love this. This is St. Peter's Square when they announced the Pope, less than 10 years apart. And I don't know if any of you in 1979 were in Phoenix Park waving your yellow flags. I certainly was, probably in my communion outfit or something like that, giving away my age. But, the point I'm trying to draw out is we've got a huge task to engage our people, and you cannot engage them in the same way. So we know it's all about people. We know it's the entire employee life cycle we've got to look at, who we're hiring, how we're developing, who we're firing, how we're doing learning and development, the whole thing. But actually, we've got some very brilliant young folk who just want to go viral. They're already energized by the whole topic. We've got to engage with them in one way. We've got a very different workforce who love, we've got something called Engine Ear, and it's a radio program that we broadcast. And basically, you've got blokes who will probably be on their own, age 60, 65, who've been working for BT since they were 16, in an exchange in a remote part of Scotland, possibly an island, and talking to them and communicating with them is very, very different to how I would engage our apprentices. So it is definitely about people, but I guess the big learning for me in such a big organisation, and that doesn't even bring in the global dimension either, by the way, that's just looking at the UK, is we've got to really relate to our people in different ways. The second thing for us is we've got an amazing asset really in our brand. So we are trusted and we are seen as reliable, which in a business-to-business context is amazing. That is a really, really good start, and that's what people think of BT. And they also see us as British, which is fine, because it's British Telecom. But that's fine if it's Daniel Craig getting out of the Aston Martin. It's not so good if it's this old guy in his Morris Minor. And this is a real balancing act for us in BT. So one of the things we're doing this year is we are rebranding, and it's probably quite topical given that Aircom have just rebranded to Air, but it's something that we're looking at. We won't necessarily change our name, but how we're conveying ourselves and then how we expect our people to behave as well is something that we're really, really actively looking at. The next kind of area is very much around our processes and systems, and I really relate to everything Ken said. I think the downside and the upside for BT is because we've such a history, we have lots of layers of technologies and networks, and we're not, starting with nothing. We're not a startup, and we have quite a lot of complexity, particularly in our telecoms processes. We have a very active regulator in the UK as well. So we're not really in a position to start from nothing, and we've still got to simplify a lot of what we do. But, and I guess the big but, I'm a process consultant by background, but the big but for me is there's a point at which it's enough, and you can't actually engineer and perfect everything technically. Your people have to actually then carry it. They have to be well, supported. They have to have the right training. They have to have the right enablement and professionalism, and they have to kind of get on with the job and deal with anything that can't be dealt with through technology. So the last, I guess, point for me is, I don't know if any of you know, but I think next week we're hoping to hear BT is planning to acquire EE, and I don't know if any of you know about EE. EE is the largest 4G network in the UK. It's the largest mobile phone operator. We are hoping to buy them for £12.5 billion, and we're pretty sure we will get the go-ahead early next week. On that basis, we're now going to become a mobile and fixed organisation, and I'll be the chief customer officer of both, God love me. But the reality is we've got a huge change coming ahead of us. No person in BT will be untouched by the fact that we're back in full force in the mobile business. And as a result, we've got to see that as a Trojan horse. Sorry, there's a bit of a sublime picture in the background, but I can't kind of fight with that for priority. I can't vie against it. I've just got to see it as an opportunity that every single change that we're going to make, because we're going to make a lot of changes, have to be made with the customer in mind. Whether that's branding, whether that's training, whether that's our organisation structure, which will change as well, whether that's how we develop our products, which will be converged, with both a fixed, hopefully, and a mobile component to them, how I can build resilience and have networks that can fall over to mobile networks. Everything can be done with a customer in mind, and a lot more. So that's just some food for thought. We've got an awful lot we need to do, but I do think the kind of the leadership and the people component is very clear for us. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Owen. Thank you.